Hi, and welcome to Muhammad Bana's podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Tate Worswick, who's sitting in Lisbon, Portugal. Hi, welcome, Tate.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of your podcast experience.
Okay, so Tate works with a company called RCG Global. They're one of the sponsors of today's podcast with Global Institute of Wealth, and Tate and his company offer solutions for second passports, residency, and citizenship. But we wanted to just speak to Tate to get a macro and a global view on what's happening in the world with his clients and the solutions he offers. So Tate, talk to us. What's happening in the world?
Man, a lot, I guess, depending on what country you're in. But every country, I know specifically I'm American and from the U.S. I recently relocated to Lisbon here in Portugal, and there's unfortunately a lot of negative things happening in the U.S. That's, I guess, good from a business standpoint, as my company Global RCG being in the second residency and citizenship by investment industry. But it's not good, for everybody else involved, really. It's regardless of where you're from, having a second residency or citizenship is really beneficial for a number of different reasons, and I'm sure we'll get into all those. But specifically what we've seen happen in the U.S. over the past few years, financially, socially, it's paved the way for the U.S. not being a destination market anymore, and actually a source of investors, a source of capital, and proponents of these various global residency and citizenship programs, which there's 80 plus around the world, in some shape, form, or fashion, with various routes to gaining that second residency or citizenship. So it's really quite interesting what's going on both the macro and micro levels. That really, I guess, is a push factor for a lot of the high net worth individuals. Actually, you don't even really have to be a high net worth individual anymore to take advantage of these programs. There's so many different options out there, but that's exactly what we're seeing in the market. It's regardless of, to bring it back around, regardless of what country you're from, I'm sure there's push factors in respective to your country that is going to make you look at what options or opportunities are out there, and that's kind of where we come into play.
Okay, so Tate, let's just have a casual conversation on this, where clients that have been using you, what has the need been for certain clients? And give us some case studies and examples from which countries have they been, and how did you all help these guys? And, what was the clients looking for, and from which countries were there?
Well, we primarily focus on the U.S. market. Like I said, we serve clients all over the world in every jurisdiction: India, China, South Africa, Europe, even. So it really depends on, I guess, what country they're from and the need behind that. So primarily you can boil it down to a handful of reasons: the education, legacy planning, tax, health, safety, mobility. And so with our American clients over the past couple of years, or past year or so, it's more a need for a plan B. With everything that's going on in the U.S., I just read earlier today that there was another mass shooting at an elementary school that killed 20 kids and 2 teachers. That was, after 10 days ago, there was another shooting, a racially driven shooting that killed 10 people in New York. And so there's something like 300 public mass shootings this year, and be qualified as a mass shooting, it's more than 6 people, I think, have been killed.
Wow.
That's ridiculous, and that's kind of been the trend over the past
years.
And I was
thinking South Africa is dangerous.
Yeah, and so you have factors like that, and then you have inflation's at an all-time high, and politically, regardless whatever side of the fence you sit on, that one of those sides is going to be against what's going on. And so a lot of our clients are just looking for.
I'm cutting you off here. Sorry about that, but you'd mentioned inflation, right? So people in America, the cost of living is going up because of the money printing and inflation. Are people moving elsewhere, and to which countries are they moving to lower the cost of their living?
Just about anywhere. Europe, Portugal, Lisbon, for example. I moved here to Lisbon, and if you're outside of the city center, the average monthly wage or monthly income is, I think, 700 or 800 euro a month, which is significantly less than just about any other country for first world country, U.S. for example. So the cost of living reflects that. You have people specifically like California taxes, for example. Both the taxes and cost of living there. I lived in Southern California and Los Angeles. We're seeing a huge exodus. There's a domestic migration right now happening in the States out of California, going to Texas, going to Florida. New Yorkers are coming down to Florida and going to Texas. They're going to the zero tax jurisdictions. The cost of living in San Francisco is amongst the highest in the world. You have these engineers, in Silicon Valley who make easily 150K starting a year, who are basically working to live to pay rent in San Francisco. So they're moving in what we saw during the pandemic is, and I think this is a positive thing, is that people all of a sudden realize they can do their job working from home when they weren't allowed to go to the offices. Companies realize they can function probably at a more efficient rate, higher rate than having people with their employees outside of the office and having them in. Right. And so companies are now realizing they don't need it to have that over the real estate overhead. They are getting more production out of their employees. There's all these studies and surveys of how efficient employees are now at working at home. And with that, employees are valuing their ability to work from home and their time off, and there's a quality of life aspect that's coming into play. And
that's an important point, quality of life, and people realizing, I think after COVID, that it's not all about the work, and a balanced life with family and friends, and valuing relationships. So
exactly.
I think pre-COVID, I mean, if we had to tell a CEO of a company that we're not prepared to come drive to their office or fly to their office if they're in another city to meet them to do $1 million deal, and we want to discuss it on Zoom, they think we're bananas, and they'd say we don't deserve the contract. Okay, but today we've managed, in one of my other companies, 5,000 miles, we've managed to sell a container of sportswear from Brazil to Mr. Price in South Africa just on Zoom without the parties meeting. So I think,
and a lot of companies are preferring to do business like that, because then you don't have the travel budget. You have all these economic factors that go into it as well for companies, that they're saving across the board. And then you have those that are righteous in the fact that they just don't want to have that human interaction to potentially get COVID or whatever. And now it's monkeypox, and so there's those factors. Was that?
I said that's crazy. Now it's one thing after the next. Monkeypox. So there's a case in the U.S. now. What other countries besides Portugal have people been looking at? And you've probably got clients from high net worth individuals and family offices, right down to nomadic single people that, like you said, these computer programmers or coders that want to just move to Bali or Phuket or somewhere and sit with their laptop and still do coding, right? So just take us through the spectrum of the different locations and how people are, flocking to these destinations. Because I think here in South Africa, my listeners are predominantly South Africa. I've got a few listeners in Indonesia and America, but people are not aware that there is this mass migration happening and this new form of nomadic lifestyle.
Right. And so Portugal is a popular destination because it's one of the quickest paths to permanent residency and citizenship that doesn't require a substantial investment. You have Malta, which is a passport program, or a citizenship by investment program that gives you a passport for roughly €1 million. And that's, after a year to 2 years, depending on which route you go. And then you have Portugal for €280,000 investment into a real estate project. You can get permanent residency. And after 5-6 years of permanent residency, then you can apply for citizenship and you get a European passport. And the unique thing with Portugal is the physical presence requirement. You need a week a year. And so, we have residency programs and citizenship programs, second passports. So residency programs generally require some type of physical presence, and you have to renew your visa a number of different times. And typically it will lead to citizenship if you fulfill those requirements. Passport, it's essentially you get a second passport for an investment. Say like in the Caribbean, we've had a lot of clients go down to the Caribbean. So you have St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Lucia will all have citizenship by investment programs, ranging anywhere from 100,000 for the donation option to 300,000 for the real estate option. And so those are quite attractive because you can get a passport in 90 to 180 days, depending on what the processing time is for the respective countries in the backlog. The other popular golden visa programs, as they're termed here in Europe. Greece is a great place, real estate investment for €250,000. Spain, Italy. We're also seeing a lot of, specifically in America, a lot of citizenship by descent. But I would say majority of our clients right now are either getting second passports in the Caribbean, Portuguese golden visa, or Greece and Italy and Spain as well, just based on the quality of life, the education, and ease of living, and not really requiring a substantial investment. And now within each of those paths, there's investment routes. There's also passive income visas. There's digital nomad visas. So, as you mentioned, that whole spectrum of options and opportunities for each of these countries that range from the high investment to passive income. If you're a retiree, we see a lot of retirees wanting to retire abroad. And so really, no matter what country you're coming from, if you have a pension or retirement income or real estate income, income derived from outside of that country, that host country, then anywhere from €1,500 to €4,000 or so, then you can qualify for one of these passive income visas. So the options are really limitless. It's just what are you looking for? What is it? A mobility? Is it a passport? Is it education? Is it tax? A lot of this. There's huge tax implications. A lot of these, unfortunately, Americans, is citizenship, is taxation, so we can't get around that. But a lot of these other countries, like South Africa, is territorial residency based. And so if you're not spending 183 days in your home country, you want to get a second residency, then you can go and get tax residency there. Or you can get citizenship in a country that doesn't have any tax or lower tax thresholds, or zero capital gains tax, which is popular for the crypto enthusiasts. So there's a number of opportunities.
Which countries are the guys going to for less tax, for zero tax or cutting tax?
The Caribbean, Portugal has been popular because of their crypto legislation. However, I've heard that's changing now. They were 0%. But the Caribbean is pretty popular. Panama, Cayman Islands, even Mauritius, off the coast of South Africa, or Madagascar there is a popular destination for the residency by investment program, which is $350,000 in real estate, and zero wealth tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax. So generally, you want to look for a country that doesn't tax you on your worldwide income. And then there's a kind of a flag theory game. You play at that point. But those are important factors to look at, certainly.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting, I think, for high net worth individuals to save on the tax and get this residency or citizenship just from a tax point of view. So it's not just migrating for a better lifestyle. I mean, at the end of the day,
you really, it's really up to your listeners, the high net worth individuals, the investors, the families, what their goals, short term and long term, are. Is obviously, imagine, legacy planning, education for your kids, healthcare, and taxation, and then you just got to prioritize those three things initially, are essentially, as well as I should say, global mobility. And whether you're a business person or where you're at in life, those are the primary factors to look at. And you can steer yourself towards certain jurisdictions at that options at that long-term goals.
Yeah. So to sum up what you're saying, one is moving for lowering the cost of the living. Because of inflation in certain countries, you can move and lower the cost of your living. You can move to a healthier environment. You can move for tax savings and tax benefits. And you could move, for legacy planning, I don't know, just for your kids to have a second option. And education,
absolutely.
Education, the education standard of the universities have been dropping in South Africa, and someone wants to take the kids to Europe to study, or to another country. So these are the options.
Yeah. I mean, Europe has traditionally had the strongest education school systems, both in primary and secondary, around the world. Many Americans go to Europe to study, and so getting residency in one of these countries will then allow you to attend these top tier universities and these primary schools, essentially, free of charge, because that's what you get for a lot of these, or for tuition.
And you're also saying about certain passports allow you to move visa free through all these countries. I mean, our South African passport, you can go almost nowhere with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So during the pandemic, here's an example for you. During the pandemic, the U.S. passport dropped down to, I think it was like 75 to 80 countries you were able to travel to. If you're a business person, you couldn't, you had operations in Europe, you couldn't reach those, you couldn't go anywhere, essentially. And Americans don't like being told what to do. And so they freaked out, we freaked out, and there's a huge surge in interest to these second passport programs. And for example, St. Kitts and Nevis passport, tiny little nation in the Caribbean, St. Kitts and Nevis passport, you can travel to 150 different countries during that time. So you have, a strong passport like the US, all of a sudden being reduced to nothing, to 80, most of which countries you never want to travel to. And then if you had a St. Kitts and Nevis passport at that time, the world's your playground still, and you can go out and, travel. And so, South Africans, you need a visa just about to go anywhere, right? And so, especially if you're a business person, this will alleviate a lot of that headache. It's a pain in the butt to get these visas at times, depending on what country you're going to. And I once had to get a visa to go to Russia, and that was a colossal pain in the ass. And so that was the first time with my American passport that I experienced something like that. And so
we go through it on a daily basis.
And I can only imagine. I would have forked over $100K right there for a different citizenship if it gives me visa free travel.
Yeah.
So
with the Bitcoin conference, was it in March? I think you guys had a stand.
Beginning of April.
Yeah. So I wanted a US visa, and my interview date was in September. Okay.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I was like, imagine waiting from March till September just to get an interview at the embassy. Yeah,
it's absurd. And so, I can sell you a second passport if you like, Muhammad.
Definitely. That's why you're on this podcast and we're building this relationship. And at the end of the day, you know what? My aim, being the founder of Global Institute of Wealth, is to offer solutions and values to high net worth individuals and to family offices, because I saw myself having the same needs, having my wife and my 3 kids, and thinking about succession planning, thinking about their education, thinking about travel, tax planning, all these things. And, it's been a good relationship reaching out to you guys there in Miami, in your head office. And I think my intention is to help others in my network and my community with the same solution. So I think for today, we don't want to go on for hours talking. We could talk for hours. We should just leave it short and sweet. And those that are listening out there on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, feel free to reach out to me and the company, and we could always put you in touch with Tate and his team at RCG and have a Zoom call with them, have a free consult, and see what solutions Tate and his team can offer.
Yeah, I would love that. And, we're here to help, whatever it is. Just to recap, you don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to get a second residency or citizenship. It spans the whole spectrum of zero investment, passive income, to $1 million investment, $2 million investment, 5 million New Zealand dollars. So, and there's just about every country around the world has some path to residency or citizenship. It's just figuring out how best to get there based on your needs, and that's what Muhammad and I are here for.
Yeah, Tate, thanks for giving us time from your busy schedule, and hope to have you soon on the podcast again. And just keep in touch. Let us know what's happening there in Europe. And thanks for your time once again.
Thank you so much, Muhammad. And I'll be back anytime.
Okay.